I don't know who this team is. I don't know what's going on, but there is zero drama in 49ers land. Fred Warner locked up, Brock Purdy locked up, George Kittle locked up. We're going to talk about all that and review the 49ers offseason right after this. I'm Jason Aponte. That's Steph Sanchez. This is the Bully Ball Podcast on the Gold Standard Podcast Network, the only 49ers podcast that is looking for the highest annual value on the open market. Steph Sanchez, how are you?
I'm great. Good to have you back. Don't leave me with Rob again. Thank you.
Joke never gets old.
And I like the jersey, man. I like that.
Thank you. And you know what's funny? Is this is the first time that I've ever worn it. And I don't know why that is. Because I bought it, I was telling Rob before, I bought it when the patch first came out and everybody was going to Fanatics for the drop. Yeah. And, there was the patch gate, is it ironed on? Is it, 2021 was a blast. But yeah, this is the first time I've gotten a chance to wear it. And, what better time than now? The best linebacker in football is the highest paid. And that makes a lot of sense. But before we get into all of that, Steph, I just want to talk about the channel reaching 50,000 subscribers.
Woo!
What a round number. And I was talking to Rob about this, and I wanted to express the sentiment on this show. Being a part of this is really, really rewarding because I remember what it was like when Niners Nation let us go, as a podcast network. And I remember discussing with Rob and discussing with you, like what it is that he can do, and we just implored him, like, dude, just start your own thing and let's go. And now look, 50,000 subscribers on the back of the fact that Rob is incredibly tireless when it comes to what he does and has insane passion. But it's just it's a reflecting time right now, I think, for me, Steph, because I think you and I remember exactly what it was like when all that stuff went down with Niners Nation.
Yeah, and I don't want to toot our own horn, but we were right. Like, Rob just had to go out there and people were gonna, come in flux, I guess, to support, because one thing about 49er fans is they're super supportive, I think, of all content creators, and we're all very fortunate enough to, feel that love in our own way. And so, yeah, Rob, super deserving of the 50K and happy to be part of it.
For sure, man. And that peace of mind of knowing this is mine, I built it, no one can take it from him, and I'm just happy to be a part of it. And I'll always thank Rob for believing in me and sticking with me when probably somebody else would have let me go. I mean, honestly. Anyway, but enough with the sentimental stuff. Actually, let's get into more sentimental stuff. You see the 54 jersey, Fred Warner, massive extension, the highest in league history. Somehow, still feels underpaid, right?
Yeah, isn't that crazy? I mean, his AAV is only 1 million more than Roquan Smith, who
I love the pettiness.
He went over. Yeah, we love the pettiness, but to your point, it's like he should be getting more than just 1 million over the next guy, because that's how much better he is than all of his peers. And he's been the model of consistency, I think, for this team, which is why I love, the 49ers continue to reward players who continue to show up. And Fred Warner is one of those guys. He's definitely someone that, with all these, rookies coming in the last 2 years, he's setting that standard and leading by example. So it's just really awesome to see. I think one of our favorite players, most definitely from this regime, right? And, you rocking the jersey, so I know you feel the same way, Jay. But I can't think of someone more deserving to be the highest paid linebacker than Fred Warner. And yeah, they could have probably thrown in a couple more million on there, and we would have all felt good. We wouldn't have batted an eye.
For sure. And I'm just going to say it. Fred is setting the gold standard for how, 49ers players should act, right? Going to the voluntary workouts. When he was asked about the contract, said, listen, I've made a lot of money. I know it's going to work itself out. Again, I don't think we ever expected Fred to do anything like social media antics or anything like that. Just, again, the leader, right? And we talked about how the 49ers at times, right, we felt like, hey, man, they're a little stingy with the money, right? Well, they're not stingy with the money when it's foundational players.
Yeah.
And that's what Fred is. So it's great that, again, this is done. It was not something we were worried about. It's maybe the last domino to fall. We'll talk about, one other player that maybe there's somebody, there that, you can argue. But man, 49er fans, 52, 53, 54, we have been absolutely blessed at linebacker. And ironically, this jersey, the other jerseys that I have of players that are not on the 49ers anymore, Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, Fred Warner, always comes back to linebackers for me for some reason.
Respect Chris Borland, pal.
Respect Dan Scooter, bucko.
Dan Scooter. That's a deep cut. Right? That's a deep cut.
Right? So just for anybody who doesn't think that I'm about this 49ers life and you think that I'm a bandwagoner, like that's crazy. Like that'll never be the truth. But yes, look, it's done. Again, it does feel like he's underpaid, right? 3 years, $63 million. Somehow that's just the new record. But again, for a guy who last season was the DPOY by a lot of people's measures, and then played on a broken ankle when, for all intents and purposes, the season was lost pretty early last season. But again, showing the way to go, right? Like leading by example. And Fred is going to be here forever. It's going to be perfect. But I do want to say this too. Not only just a leader with his examples, I think my favorite Fred Warner speech is right before the Seahawks game, where he's like, let's smoke these boys out the gate. We hate these And I'm just like, yeah, we do. Like, I would run through a wall for Fred Warner, man. No questions asked. Silent, but when he gives those type of moments, he's earned it, and you really believe him.
Yeah, for sure. And, I mean, he embodies just the mentality that you want players to have. Like you said, he's setting the gold standard. And as you were talking, like, I looked this up too. Like he's only missed one career game, 7 years, only one game missed. And crazy. He could have very well missed some games last year. And I don't think anyone would have faulted him for that, playing on the fractured ankle. But again, he just shows that resiliency and that want to, and that's what the 49ers want to continue to reward. And, you mentioned the fact that he showed up at the voluntary offseason program. And I've been saying this, and I would say it again. Like all three of these guys that got their extensions showed up to the voluntary offseason program. Kittle was a little late. He had to go to his wrestling thing. That's cool. But he showed up. He showed up anyway. And all three of these guys got their contracts. For one, I don't want to feel like that's a coincidence so much. And I don't think the 49ers want to, feel like it's a coincidence either. I think they believe, hey, if we just get you guys in the building, we can get this done a lot faster, and it'll be beneficial for both sides. And I think they want that to be the expectation and the precedent going forward. So for all three of these guys, and these guys being, very what's the word? Like they're great examples for the rest of them. I think it's going to just weigh that much more to the younger players, any players that are coming due for an extension, that if they show up, you'll be rewarded.
Now we just have to get Mitch Wisnowski under contract, for extension.
Oh boy.
Yeah, remember this. Remember this. We hate these boys. We hate these motherfuckers. Come out and smoke these boys from the first whistle. The first fucking whistle. One game, 60 minutes, all you got.
Dude.
One game, 60 minutes, all you got. Love that.
I want to punch my TV. Like that's how you feel. Again, Thursday Night Football in Seattle, man. And Fred Warner talking about something that's very personal, hating the Seattle Seahawks like we do because of all the things they've done to us, man. I mean, just, again, embodies that. But I did want to say this, too, in regards to getting this done and everything moving in the right direction. I think, one, is the 49ers had every intention of paying them, right? Like, there was never going to be any, stepping or falling all over their feet. But, two, I do think that they realize that everything has to go smoothly into the offseason and everyone has to be there. So there are no slow starts. When you look at the schedule, when you look at the way that it's all set up, you can easily see a path for the 49ers to start 3-1, 4-0. How do you do that? You take away the time of acclimation period, right? It feels like a bunch of times during the Kyle Shanahan era, we're like, oh, the offense is it's getting there and they're getting close, but there can't be any of that. This has to be a season that can't be a losing season. This has to be a season in which the 49ers start fast based on the schedule, because we know the ebbs and flows of an NFL season. Things are going to go up. Things are going to go down. There's going to be adversity. But starting fast allows you to have wiggle room throughout the season. And I think the 49ers understand all those things. On top of the fact that, Brock was never going to hold out. Neither was Warner, neither was Kittle. All those things matter. But I think the team itself realizes the importance of this season and how they have to start fast, and they have to win a lot of games this year. How do you do that? You have a smooth offseason in which you just have the team there. Everybody's building rapport. You're getting yourself in shape, and there's no issues. And funny enough, this schedule came out on May 14th, and the 49ers released this. And look at the three guys on the screen.
I didn't even peep that. Like, that's funny.
Did they? What were they cooking? What were they cooking? But you look at it: Seattle, New Orleans, who doesn't have a quarterback, Arizona, who's always going to be annoying. What are the Jacksonville Jaguars? That could be a 4-0 start heading into your first real divisional game, because that's me shading Seattle and Arizona with the Rams on Thursday Night Football. So again, you're talking about the travel. You're talking about possible injuries. You're talking about adversity. You're talking about games where you're not going to execute. It's important for the 49ers to start fast and hit the ground running. No acclimation period. We shouldn't be talking in week 3 and week 4 about like, well, they're getting there. They're getting close. Nope. Got to start fast.
Well, I think they realized a lot of things the hard way in 2024, right? Like, it was almost like an accumulation of a lot of their bad habits, just kind of, coming back to bite them in the end. And one of those was the contract negotiations. And it's okay, we'll get it done eventually, and kicking that can down the road, and finally seeing the impacts of that and how it could affect your season. It wasn't just that. There were other aspects to it as well. One of those things of, starting slow in the season itself, how that impacted their season, and them feeling like we can get out of this still. We've done it before, so again, right. All those bad habits we saw turn very ugly in 2024. But what I like the most about this offseason is that I think they showed some self-awareness, right? All the issues that you could identify for this team in 24, they reversed all of those. And again, we got to see how it plays out for the season. But as far as just looking what they did this offseason, it's looking good. Having all 3 of these deals done before OTAs, I mean, yeah, I don't know who this team is. Where is the drama, right? I thought they loved the drama. Apparently not, but I don't like the drama either. So this is great. And also just other things like the defense being as bad as it was. What did they do? They cut ties with Nick Sorensen. They brought back Robert Saleh. Special teams, they looked to improve that. What was the issue with the defense last year as well? Run defense. The draft was almost solely focused on the run defense for much of it, right? So just seeing that self-awareness and the reversal of all those bad habits and looking to really address the root issues of what went wrong in 2024, I think gives me good hope. And I hope that what they're building and what they're looking to do this offseason becomes the new norm and becomes the new habit for this team, so they don't fall into those ruts like they did last year.
What a difference a year makes. Last year around this time, Brandon Ayuk's flying away to this place. Where is he? Is he at the facility? What are they? It's
awful.
He deleted all his social media. It's a little too quiet around here. And you know what's funny is, I put out there, hey, I'm loving this no drama offseason. And someone said, well, you're a content creator. What did you must have loved last year? I hated every single minute of last year.
We're still fans too.
Right. But I didn't feel the need to create a video every time someone said something about Brandon Ayuk, right? Or someone said something about where he was flying. I didn't do that. My channel was dormant because there was nothing substantial to talk about. Now, there's nothing really substantial to talk about but football. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing. We can focus in on the rookies. We can focus in on second-year players. We can focus in on predicting things and going back to, like, there's football to talk about now. And that is far more exciting to talk about than any sort of offseason drama. I don't like it. Sure, it may, generate whatever, clicks, sales, whatever it is, whatever you want to say. I'm good off of it, because if I'm repeating myself over and over about something that really has no sort of legs, I'm bored, and I don't like it. So this is good. But I wanted to kind of shift the conversation, Steph. This offseason right now, the vibes are immaculate. Last year's offseason, the vibes were low. But that's not how this offseason started. And I don't want to do revisionist history, because where we are now with everything is not where we were early in the offseason. And that's objective. So let's start. All of these players are leaving. Although the keener, sharper 49er minds knew Hufanga probably was going to leave. There was a big chance that Drake Greenlaw was going to leave. Charvarius Ward was going to leave. When you see those names, it wasn't like, oh my God, what are they doing? They prepped for all of this by drafting players that can take their spots, by understanding the market and understanding all that. But it still didn't look good, because you're looking, and then you get to that defensive line after Hargrave goes and Collins goes, and you're like, my God, who's going to start, in the season, right? And this is, again, before the NFL draft. But let's start in the beginning. The 49ers signed Luke Farrell, and people are like, what is that? They trade Jordan Mason, and they're bringing in, they signed Mac Jones, and everybody's like, these are the additions. What are they doing? I think now that we've got a larger view right now with everything, now we know what they were cooking. And I don't want to gloss over the fact that early in the offseason, it wasn't all good vibes like it is now.
It's sometimes hard, I think, to see the vision when the offseason is like half baked, right? Like, you start seeing these early moves that aren't very exciting, to your point, Luke Farrell, like, is that it? That's the best we could do for the offseason? Okay, I guess it's going to be a boring free agency for us, and they're really going to go all in on this draft. But then you got to wait for the draft to kind of see how that pans out. Like, do we trust these players? Do we feel good about the players that, they're going to bring in, right? So it was a little bit of like having to trust the process a little bit. And sometimes that's hard to do, right? But I think now it's easier to see the vision and see that it was a good one. And I honestly, when you said that though, Jay, I thought you were going to go back to even earlier in the offseason when they were like staking out Robert Saleh and how close it felt to that not happening, because that to me was
That's
real
a good
close.
Point. That's a good point. It
could have gone either way. Like, the offseason could have been like, shit, bleep it out, Rob. If they didn't get Robert Saleh, and we'd be singing a whole different tune right now, probably. But thankfully they got that done, and that kind of built, in a way, the momentum to a lot of other things happening, in my opinion.
What's funny is I want to use this specific example because, as I do at times, I go back and forth with Twitter followers about, my takes. And the Jordan Mason trade, this is where I'm going to start. The Jordan Mason trade. Everyone's saying, what on earth are you doing? How can you do that? My stance always, today, tomorrow, and every single day after, is if you have an undrafted free agent and you can recoup a draft pick, that's just good business. Always. But now that we have who the pick was, didn't they use that pick on a running back, Jordan James, right? Like, so the plan was right there in front of you, was we're going to recoup this. We're going to get a pick for an undrafted free agent, and we're going to draft a running back with that pick. See, when you leave out the part of who was being selected, you're just viewing the trade as, how could you do that for, Jordan Mason was so good, and, but the plan, right? And then we're talking about the defensive line. 1, 2, the first 2 picks, defensive line, right? And still think that the 49ers should add Zadarius Smith, but hey, whatever. That's for a whole other day, right? At this point, like, I think they're just one pass rush specialist away from locking in with this defensive line. But right now, it's going to be a time where we look back at how all the departures went, even if they were all expected. And this offseason went from, I don't know what the plan is, to the plan is coming to focus. Now, will the return on the investment on the plan be, that's on the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. We'll find out, which is during the season. But I just wanted to go through this because speaking through it, it allows you to remember, like, where we were thinking about how things were in the beginning to where we are now. And regardless of what's down the line, how much better we feel about it, because John Lynch did say we have a plan, and they really did, huh?
Yeah, I know. It's like, damn. Okay. I trust you. I trust you again. But like, I think the reason that we, like, some fans stopped believing in a plan, quote unquote, is because I feel like they've said similar things. Like last year, they probably might have said the same thing. And although last year, as far as changes go, wasn't as drastic, we think about all the extensions that they dished out then. And to me, that didn't go smoothly, right? Like, and I think we can all agree it didn't go smoothly. So at that point, talking about a plan and, how you want things to get done didn't hold a lot of weight by the end of it, because, it went to shit. So yeah, this year, I think we see how it played out, and it's played out perfect. They had a better plan this year. Let's just say that their plan this year was
very well said,
way better, and they executed it, I think, to a T. Right? Last year, like, it almost felt like they had plans, but wrenches got thrown in them at every turn. Like nothing was going right. And so this year, I felt like they were a little more proactive, and they didn't really let outside factors dictate what they were going to do. So better plan.
Yep. Foot for the super chat. Thank you so much, man. Getting contracts done earlier is a difference, but this team is far from getting penciled in for a rebound. It has so many questions. CMC, Trent Williams, wide receiver, O-line, defense. So the entire team, essentially, right? O-line, defense, offense. Yeah.
You missed special teams. I mean, I got questions there too.
No, we don't now, right? Like, we got a kicker competition going on, right? Like, so, like, we talk about all the drama, and we're gonna get to training camp, and the biggest storyline is gonna be who's winning the kicker competition. What is Greg Joseph doing on the sidelines, man? Like,
that's gonna be our off-season content. Yeah.
You know what? I don't mind it, right? I don't mind it, right? Think back to training camp when we were there, and there's this guy running around in the background who has this chiseled jaw, and he's got this 5 o'clock shadow, and he's not practicing because Trey Lance is on the field, but he's running around in the background and people are cheering for him. That is some of the wildest stuff like we've ever seen at a training camp. Is like having a quarterback who you're trying to trade, but is there and is a constant distraction, just running around, and the discussion just gets louder. That's par for the course for usual 49ers off seasons. The craziest shit is going on.
The 49ers must have heard that they have a chance to be on Hard Knocks this year, and they're like, okay, bet, let's be as boring as possible. Let's get all this done before they can report on it.
That's Kyle Shanahan telling HBO, like, don't bring any cameras in here. We're not going to be fun this year, like, at all. 415 Faithful, thank you for the comment. When do you guys believe the Niners will sign an edge or two here? I'm thinking they need at least 4, even if you have players that can play multiple positions on the line. I love Zadarius Smith. When you look at what he did last year in Cleveland, in 9 games, his pressure rate was still very high. That defense is obviously good, but he got revitalized when he replaced Aiden Hutchinson. He doubled his pressure rate in Detroit. I think that has a lot to do with being on a playoff team, understanding that you finally got out of Cleveland and you have a chance to really make a playoff run. You kind of hope that that's what you'll be getting from him again. I know he's 33, but when you think about it, you don't bring him in on base downs. You bring him in on obvious third and longs and passing situations, and you let the man cook, and then you can move around Michael Williams and move him inside, and Robert Saleh can really get creative with how they generate pass rush. What do you think, Steph?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they did look to add another edge rusher. I think Lombardi mentioned that they got like $40 million in cap right now, which is about what they usually try to roll over to the following year or into the season.
Without the increase as well, too. Without the increase.
Sure, yeah. Good call out. I don't think that really precludes them from, also bringing in another edge rusher, especially as we get closer to camp. I think we always see some very late signing, usually for a veteran, because a lot of those veterans are kind of waiting out the situation as well. Like they don't want to, mess around with all this offseason program stuff. They've done all that before. So they kind of just want to sign with a team and go. And so I think the 49ers at that point, a little closer to that, will look to sign another edge. I would hope, right? Because like we're kind of seeing that's like the one position on the defense that they don't like. You want some competition there at the very least, right? Like something going on. So I think Zadarius Smith is a good option. It shouldn't even cost them that much. That's the other thing, that if you wait that long, you're dishing out, vet minimum contracts at that point. So I think that's what the 49ers are kind of waiting out, and players waiting it out as well.
Ring chasers. You got to find those guys that are ring chasers. Von Miller's somebody else that is out there as well, too. Again, situational pass rushers. They don't have them on the field for base downs. Let's get them, and let's turn this NASCAR package up. I want to go back to the offseason because I felt like a big turning point in the offseason was when the 49ers missed out on Joey Bosa. That made a lot of people very worried, because I think 49er fans already penciled in the fact that they were like, the Bosa brothers are going to be here. This. All right, so we've lost all these players, but we're adding this guy. And then it felt like when he signs with Buffalo, everyone's like, what are they doing? Like, what? Like who's going to, again, we're just talking about how we felt then. It would be remiss in our duties if we revise history and we're like, oh, no, we were confident the entire time. We knew they had a plan, and we were very confident. No. At that moment, the question started to be, who on earth is going to be playing for this team? And, free agency thinned itself out, and, you see the names come off the board, and people were panicked after the Joey Bosa thing.
I think what concerned me about that is what it meant. To me, it meant free agents aren't looking to sign with the 49ers. The 49ers aren't this team suddenly that free agents want to go to and ring chase, to your point, right? Like, this is not that anymore. That's what I was worried, that the perception of the team to free agents was now skewed based on the 6-11 finish. And they had every right to feel that way, right? There was a lot of unknowns. I don't even remember at that point, did we have Saleh yet?
I believe so, if I'm not mistaken. We'll let Rob fact check that one.
Fact check us, Rob. But ask ChatGPT or something. But I wasn't too worried about missing out on Joey Bosa specifically. I was just more so worried about what that meant. And I think I was right, though, because who did the 49ers sign in free agency, right? That was like a top tier free agent. But I think it also went along with what John Lynch was saying was their plan, which was, hey, like we're not really going to be dishing out money and spending a whole lot. And yes, Rob confirmed they did have Saleh by the time Joey Bosa signed that contract with the Bills. But, I think signing Joey Bosa would have been a contradiction to a lot of what they were saying, which is also why I was totally fine with it. Bosa, a player, aging, not very available for his team. Very injured, the last couple years, not reliable. That's the complete opposite of the players that the 49ers want to reward with contracts. So that's another thing. I think it also told us that whatever the 49ers offer maybe was probably in line with all those facts, right? And so obviously Bill's willing to pay a little bit more for Joey Bosa. They could have him. That's cool. Yeah,
I mean, look, I'm not wishing anything bad on him, but his track record is that he plays very few games, right? And I think your point is so valid about we need to retool, we need to get younger. And then
Right.
Joey Bosa is that it just doesn't
It didn't
line
make
up.
sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Now, the Zadarius Smith thing that we're suggesting is just an ancillary piece to what you've done, which is retool and fix, and bring in a bunch of younger players. You do need veteran, production, right? Like again, but here's the question that I'll pose to you. When John Lynch spoke to Chris Sims, he talked about the Rams and the Bills and their plan, right? And the Rams knew the Jaguars' new general manager worked with the Rams, right? The young man. I don't know his name. He looks like he's 12 years old. But I did want to say this because it's important. And I wonder if the 49ers are fully lifting the blueprint from them when he said, we drafted all those players and did not bring in any veterans because we didn't want them to get in their way in development. I wonder if the 49ers are going to lift that thought process as well too, and just say, this is going to be fully a season where guys are going to have to learn on the fly and develop with playing time, no questions asked.
Well, I think that is the way to go about it. I mean, you do want to have some veterans maybe, but more as like supplementary players, not so much thinking or assuming that they're going to have that. Because the 49ers operated in such a way for a lot of off seasons where the starting roles were almost given to veterans unless proven otherwise, that they shouldn't have them. Like, remember the start of training camps, how like it's always the veterans that like get those opportunities first. And to an extent it makes sense, but like as training camp goes on, like you continue to see those same dudes getting those same opportunities. And so I'm good with rookies getting those shots because that's been a lot of our gripes with this team. We've said it so many times, Jay, like especially on the offensive side. It's cool on the defensive side. I think we already know that like last year we saw a lot of rookies play. Sure, there were a lot of injuries that allowed for that to happen. But I also think there's just a more willingness on that side of the ball to give those opportunities out. So I would hope that that's something they look to do for the entire team. Now, I'm not saying, start, Jordan James over Christian McCaffrey. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not what anyone is saying. I'm just saying, like, I just want to see some of these guys. Because if you're not seeing these guys, how are you supposed to know if they're deserving of an increased role?
Training camp.
And that's what I'm saying. I think,
like,
but
we were yelling for Jordan Mason.
That's what I'm saying. We see it.
Mm-hmm.
We see it in training camp, but like, how come when the season starts, like we don't see these dudes ever again? Like, you know what I mean? If maybe for Jordan Mason, it was something different because like we remain, saying that Jordan Mason, there was something about him that the 49ers weren't as high on that fans loved. Yeah, pass pro is one thing. I think, maybe with Bobby Turner wasn't as in love with him as maybe some of the other running back. I don't know. But so maybe just not the greatest example, but you know what I mean? Like, hopefully we do see more rookies play and we see less of the roster politics.
And I think the difference is like Christian McCaffrey is not just some veteran, right? Like, it's not, you're not gonna, like it's, but what we're saying is like, if there's a veteran presence, somebody who like, of a Zadarius Smith or somebody like that, who they're not like foundational bedrock players, you're not gonna, play rookie. That's the type of player that would get in the way, right? Like, if the 49ers drafted a left tackle, we're not gonna say, I think we should sit Trent Williams so we can see what we have in it. No.
right. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah, let him play. Like, that's not how that's gonna work. But I do want to ask you this before we pivot to the final topic, which I think is a very interesting one and probably the last thing that needs to be discussed this offseason. Do we owe Parag Marathe and Jed York an apology?
I don't know. Do we?
I don't think
they're
we
doing
do.
their jobs. They're doing their jobs.
I don't think we do. But the narrative of like, oh, are the 49ers cheap? That was very loud. But the 49ers are not cheap on their foundational players. And again, I think we criticize more the negotiation tactics. When you hear low ball offer, when George Kittle says, it was like Black Friday when I got my first, my first contract offer. It was that insulting. But look, all things considered, I do find it really, really funny that after the news comes out that the 49ers are selling a little bit of the team, the next day the Brock Purdy deal's done.
I know, right? Like, he just needed to, deposit that check real quick.
Bro asked for a payday loan so he could pay Brock Purdy. So
in advance. But,
right, a quick little advance. But look, I won't say that we need to apologize to them. But good job, guys. And for the first time, there's not any issues with any sort of contract extensions. However, or is there? What about Juwan Jennings, Steph Sanchez?
Okay, well, let's see. Like, how many years does he have left on his contract?
Rob, look it up.
Rob, look it up, please. Because if it's 2, and I know Fred had 2 on his deal as well, but like Fred, that to me is a priority. Like you want to get that done, right? Juwan Jennings, I don't know if we're going to see that same sense of urgency. So I don't think it's a coincidence. We haven't heard Juwan Jennings mentioned in the same sentence as extension. He's a free agent after the year, so he only has 1 year left. So in that case, it's fair to have that conversation. But maybe he just wants to wait out that. Maybe the 49ers want to wait it out. Before we went live, like we were kind of talking about it, and I think you've got your return on investment on Juwan Jennings already. 7th round pick. He played far beyond that. He's already, you extended him once, and he was deserving of that. But I don't know if I'd push it any further, especially because, you got Ricky Pearsall, you got Jacob Cowing, you added a couple more receivers, young receivers this year as well. And what have we been saying, Jay? We want to see these guys, right? We want to see these guys. We don't want veterans standing in the way. And I'm not saying Juwan Jennings is standing in the way and he's not doing anything, because he has been productive as that wide receiver 3. But I'm just saying, I think it's played out its course.
So 2 things. One, I do feel like Juwan Jennings and Colton McKivitz are going to hit the free agent market next year. And I want 49er fans to prepare themselves for the bags that both of these players are going to get. Juwan Jennings has lifted his stock with what he did last year. Juwan Jennings is a tone setter with the way that he run blocks. Colton McKivitz is a lineman and an available lineman. And we all know that those guys get paid.
A breathing lineman.
Yeah, he has a pulse. We can say that. We don't have to agree on where we land with Colton McKivitz, but any breathing lineman with a pulse is going to get a bag. So I just want you to prepare yourself for these numbers that are going to happen, because I don't think the 49ers are bringing back Colton McKivitz. I think, the return on investment that you've gotten for him completely pales in comparison to what people expect of him. And we've talked about this a lot. But Juwan's going to get a bag thrown at him. And Jay Shaw, thank you so much for the super chat. Keep up the great work, Steph and Jason. Thank you for watching and appreciate you. But I want to ask this. You do draft Jacob Cowing, Ricky Pearsall, Jordan Watkins, who, by the way, you guys should check out KP's thread about him and how he was used in the backfield and everything, and start to put in your mind maybe how he might be utilized. But I wonder if the 49ers value his edge on offense, the tone that he sets, the way he run blocks. He's such a willing run blocker. The way that he has a nasty streak over the guys that you drafted and expect to be your next few guys. And I think that's what it's going to boil down to is, Juwan, we really value you from an intangible standpoint and everything that you bring on top of your skill set. But we got guys that we feel really good about and we're ready to go with, especially when you draft one in the first round. I just wonder, that is probably going to be the crux of the argument between this getting done with Juwan Jennings.
But in order to feel good about the young guys waiting in the wings,
Gotta
you
play.
have to actually see them. Yes, exactly. You got to actually see them, which is why I feel like I keep bashing the team for this. I think the good process is you see what you have in your young players so that if those players are good, you can move on from veterans and you don't have to feel like you need to keep extending guys to have that same level of production, right? So I think the 49ers will play it out, see how it goes this year. And I think with part of that has to be being able to see what you have in those other guys so that you can feel confident. Okay, Joanne, like, yes, we do feel good about what we have, so we can move on. And I think both sides will be fine with that because, as Jay said, you know damn well Juwan Jennings is going to get a bag. And you know what that is? That's a comp pick as well in the following year. So, and the 49ers love to do that. You know, any player that they know is going to get a big deal, like it, and to that point, I think Juwan Jennings is probably going to get a bigger deal next offseason than he would have in the previous offseason in which he got extended, right? So again, I think the 49ers played this perfectly with Juwan, and now is the time to get even more of a return on your investment, which will be the comp pick after that. Same goes with Colton McKivitz. He outplayed, where he was drafted. You extended him once. And so it's kind of like this process that they do, right? And hopefully they bring in some new tackles. Like, you also need tackles. That's the other conversation. Like, they brought in wide receivers to supplement being able to move on from Juwan Jennings, but where the tackles at? Like, you don't really got anyone there. So I think that's a concern a lot of people have. The 49ers then may be in a situation where they feel like they need to extend Colton McKivitz, which I don't think that's a good situation to be in, because then you're having to overpay for,
you got to pay market.
Player. Exactly. And let's be honest, like, market price for tackles is a crazy overpay right now.
Yeah.
So I think the 49ers would be better off just letting that go. But the good thing is, Jay, I don't know if you've seen this, but next year's tackle class looks to be a really good one. So it could work out for the 49ers in that case.
I'm not even thinking about this next draft class already. The 49ers throwback says, looks like the NFL is trying to ban the tush push, and they probably have the votes, and Roger Goodell's behind getting rid of it as well too. There'll be changes in playoff seedings as the NFL owners get together and vote. Listen, real quick on the tush push. Real quick on the tush push. I don't care if it's banned or not, but I will laugh when it is. I
think it's lame. I know we don't like the Eagles, but I think it's lame.
No, listen. If you don't like it, stop it. If you don't like it, stop it.
That's what I'm saying. Right? So why are we rewarding players, rewarding teams by banning it because they can't stop it? That's what I think is lame.
I don't want to ban it, but I'm still gonna laugh, and they're gonna get these jokes. Jalen Hurts, you better prepare yourself for your next job, buddy, because I don't know what you're going to do without this thing, man. And if anybody is interested in fantasy football advice, Saquon Barkley is going to score all the touchdowns next year. Has to be the number one pick if they ban the tush push. So that's a good thing. One more thing I saw, it's Eric Eastland's comment, and this is back to the Juwan Jennings topic. If Ricky and Ayuk look great, then JJ's gone. If either flame out, you might want to pay JJ. The problem is,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
The problem is you won't know that until his market goes up. Meaning, if either of those guys aren't up to speed and JJ puts together another 1,000-yard season, price just went up. And then you have to negotiate against other people. And if you're Juwan Jennings, I'm not signing an extension during the season. I'm going to hit that open market. And I want to see what everybody has. It's a dangerous game here. It's a dangerous game. You better have a really good sense of what these players are. And it better not be, hey, we're going to wait and see. Wait and see. You're going to end up, if those two players aren't up to speed and playing well, and losing Juwan Jennings. And now you're really starting from scratch. Very dangerous game right there, Steph.
Give them the snaps, give them the opportunity, and we'll let it play out from there. But you have to be able to see what you have. And so you have to have a healthy like sample size of snaps to be able to make that decision, because I agree, like it's a pretty big one. And, you know, I mean, it's not just for the wide receiver position, it's for like any position every year where you got a free agent, impending free agent for that season. You have to see what else you have as an option.
Yep, absolutely. That'll do it for this episode of Bully Ball on the Gold Standard Podcast Network. Thank you guys again for 50,000 subscribers. Appreciate you so much. Drop a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to wherever you get your audio podcasts. You know, follow Steph and I. We both have YouTube channels as well. Drop a like on there. That helps us out a ton. You know, follow Steph on Twitter at Steph49K. Follow me on Twitter at JasonAponte2103. Steph, this has been a very, very fun episode. There's not much to complain about. I'm having a blast, but I'm looking around. It's a little too quiet around here.
Yeah, when's the shoe gonna drop?
Right. When's the knife gonna come, man? Who's gonna pull the rug out? But for Steph, for Jay, we're out of here.
Peace.